It's October 24th, 2012, and we're in Santa Ana at All American Racers, and I'm visiting Dan Gurney, the one and only, a racer who I remember for maybe 50 years, and so we're just going to explore a little bit and have a little fun. Anyhow, Dan, a pleasure to be here, and
great to see you again, Bill.
Good to see you too. There's been a lot of books written about you and movies and everything else. I'd like to know a little bit more. In fact, I just learned that you were born or grew up in Long Island a little bit. And
yes.
I did too.
Did you really?
At a little place called Beechhurst, Long
Beechhurst.
Island, which was near Flushing.
Okay, yeah.
And
where the airport was, Flushing.
I guess, but I came out here when I was a little kid. But
yeah.
Anyhow, I'd like to explore some of the...
I was Port Jefferson.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Tell me about your early years and what got you interested in cars or wheels?
I broke my arm once, and my folks trying to rehabilitate me got me an Irish mail, but it also had a steering wheel.
What's an Irish mail?
Irish mail was a thing that you pump this way, you know, and it had air in the tires, balloon tires, and a steering wheel. And next thing you know, I'm going down the hills, and there was a big mud puddle down at the bottom. I'd get all sideways through there, and that just seemed to fit. That was early on. But then I became a big fan when a fellow named Ted Tappett, who raced with that name, but his real name was Phil Walters, who drove for Briggs Cunningham. He lived about only half a mile from where I was, and a friend of his, Walter Fink, was right next door to him. So they were big heroes to me, and out at Freeport Stadium in Long Island. And,
how old were you then at that time? Teenager?
Yeah, anywhere from 12 to 14, somewhere in that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in fact, I was thinking about it. There is the announcer, or the fellow that put on the races, was named Duke Donaldson. And he brought the cars out. There was not a dirt track. It was a paved track, a 1/5 mile oval with flat on one end, a little tiny banking on the other. And he brought them out with John Philip Sousa marching music, and girls with batons and flags. And,
I love it.
I was that destroyed me forever.
Yeah, that would do it.
Yeah.
John Philip Sousa with that.
Absolutely.
Right in the vein.
That's right.
That's great. So what was your first car?
First car was I hung out with guys that were a bit older, a guy named Noel Latherley, but he was 3 years older, so I was riding shotgun with him all the time. And it was a cut-down 34 Ford sedan. They cut the roof off, and the doors are gone and everything, and so it was lighter, and it would outrun most of the other guys, at least for a short time. So that was part of my upbringing. My first car was a 33 Ford Roadster. And of course I took the fenders off and did all the things. I already sent away to, I think it was California Bill, the hot rod guy, that had a book on how you hop up Fords and flatheads and everything.
Right.
So I got that virus early.
You sure did. Yeah, and those were great cars. I had a 34. It wasn't a Roadster, it was a convertible.
Yeah, sure.
And
so it had a fixed windscreen.
And and solid doors. And a top.
All those unnecessary things.
Yeah. And I lived around the corner from the guy by the name of Joel Thorne's.
Really?
Taken over a
familiar.
market, and the Justice brothers.
Yeah, sure.
Were his.
We still see Ed Justice Jr. all the time. Yeah.
But Ed Sr. for a long time was the person I knew longest on this planet. Because I had known him since I was about 14 or 15.
Yeah.
And Zeke did some custom work on a 37 Ford I had.
Great.
Anyhow, enough of me. I want to hear more about then. And then what did you ride, or what happened?
Well, in 1948, my dad had retired from his career as an opera singer, where he sang at the New York Metropolitan for 10 years. And they moved west on Route 66 all the way to Riverside, California. And so I was 17 when I got out of high school, when I graduated. And within less than a week, we were on our way to California.
Okay.
Yeah. So, of all the places to end up, of course, it couldn't have been more perfect.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. With all the hot rod stuff and the street racing, and I still haven't gotten over that either.
There's a lot of that going on. And,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So.
Well, that's when I first probably started seeing you and your racing.
Well, was the track there when you were there?
No, in 48, I think the track was probably built in, what,
It was closer to
54, 55.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But I mean, there were lots of Cal Club and SCCA races.
Yeah, we were racing at Palm Springs
Yeah.
and
Santa Barbara and Pomona.
And you were just a little under, well, you were 17 or 18. You were right at that age.
I was ready.
Yep. So when did you actually get into, what was your first race?
Well, that wasn't until 1955. And so I was 24. But the reason was, in those days, they had a system called the draft. And I ended up spending 2 years in the Army, and I had gone out for air cadets, and they found out I was married when my mother told them, and I got washed out because you were not allowed to be married. And so my career took
Yeah.
like our son Justin says, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. And so that's what I did.
I'm amazed at how parallel. I was a cadet in 42 or 3 or 4. I was
Yeah.
class 44J cadets, but I wasn't married.
Well, yeah.
It's so much, it's amazing. That,
Yeah.
my dad was not an opera singer, but he wrote a lot of music.
Oh, I'll be darned.
So we had-
Yeah. There's some parallel.
Yeah, there are. So you, so we're in Riverside. Whereabouts in Riverside?
I don't know if you know Riverside. It used to be Magnolia Avenue between Riverside and Corona. And off of that, right near was the parent orange tree, the parent navel orange tree, was kind of near Washington and Magnolia. And we were up Washington, probably 2 miles or mile and a half up Washington. As you're going from Riverside to Corona, you turn left on Washington and go up.
So you went to some of the Cal Club races?
Yeah, sure.
You were a spectator or what?
Spectator and
Were you on a crew? Or
no. I went to in the end, Riverside was good in terms of trying to prepare yourself. There was no way for me to get to drive someone else's car. So, okay, let's get a used, in my case, a TR2 Triumph.
Okay.
And I drove that in my first race at Torrey Pines. And
that was a good place to start.
it was great. I'm sure you raced there.
A couple times, yeah.
So I was fully engaged, and but I had a very small bank account that kind of collapsed pretty quickly, and then there was kind of a drought. But I kept trying to be sharp in terms of driving around dirt roads around Riverside, and and Skip Hudson and I were friends, and he had a really neat 29A on 32 rails, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
And street roadster, and we also ended up with 1940 Ford sedans, and I had a 32 5-window that I was learning about. I got used pretty bad when I made a trade, but that was part of my education. Anyway, soon I had no more money, but I'm pounding out of doors and going to places like the Steering Wheel or the Rudy Clay's Clay Road.
What was it called? Barney Castle?
Yes. And where Mary Davis hung out at.
Oh, the Grand Prix?
Yeah, Grand Prix. So I was trying to find a way to drive someone else's car, and it looked like it was never going to happen, but it finally did. And luckily, it was a good car, and I got a chance to.
Who was the first driver?
Well, the first time, I used to go up to Willow Springs. Skip and I both went up there. In fact, I got fired at Willow Springs by Tony Paravano. Even though I hadn't been hired yet, I was part of a tryout for a race they were going to have in Florida at New Smyrna Beach, which is south of Daytona, and he had this tremendous array of really up-to-date Italian race cars, Maseratis and Ferraris and Alphas, but also, I mean, they were up to and including a 250, what do you call it, Grand Prix Maserati. So I was driving that, and in a Ferrari, what do you call it, Mondial, I think.
Okay.
And I was going around, the second turn at Willow was a long right-hander with a slight uphill slant to it. And I was going around there in top gear on the floor and a little bit sideways. And I got to the top, and it got light, as it goes over the top, and it spun off onto the inside on the right side of the road, and I was covered in rocks and dust, and
You dirtied Tony's car.
I thought, well, maybe it'll still run. I fired it up, and it hadn't hit anything, but I went and drove some more laps, and actually ran that car faster than the other guys had run it, because that was one of the first ones, and one of the first cars that we each got to drive. And when I came in, I parked it, and I thought, well, they didn't even notice that. And then Tony Paravano, he looks under the car, and there's a trickle of gasoline coming out on the road. And he says, "Hey, somebody's been off of the road with my car, and who is it?" I admit that I did it, and he said, "You're fired." So it was like the biggest chance in the world, and I blew it. So
he fired me.
Did he? Well, that's
He wanted
good.
me to race a Torrey Prize. He wanted me to drive this beautiful little Ferrari coupe that was with suede upholstery. And I said, well, it's not a race car. I want to find out,
How it works. Yeah.
So I took it out, and he's wanted to see if the brakes were any good. And I took it out, did about 10 or 15 laps, and the brakes started to fade. It had drums.
Yeah.
And I came in, and I was wearing a Pirelli driving suit that my wife had dyed. And when I got out of the car, there was an imprint of my butt and my back on this. And Tony let out this scream when he saw his brand new Ferrari seats. And that was it. I never even got close to another car for Tony, which was probably okay.
On that same day that I got fired, was Skip progressed all the way up to a 450 Mazda V8, you know, the
Yeah, those were nice.
darn good car, and then he went off on the highest part at Willow, and then it went down into a left-hand turn,
Yeah, no,
and he spun there and dinged the wheel a little bit, and he got fired too. So we both got fired that day. And it was a long drought before, again, Willow Springs was where I got a chance to drive Cal Bailey's Corvette.
Huh.
Remember Cal Bailey?
I'm trying to place him, but
Well, he had a Corvette, a black one.
what
Eventually,
year?
it would have been 57, 58, 57.
Okay, I know that car. Yeah.
And I got to, because Bob Drake, who I'm sure you knew, couldn't drive. Well, that's another. Anyway, I got to drive Cal Bailey's Corvette and won the Corvette race at Riverside, and that was a stepping stone, big time.
Yeah.
Got a lot of publicity, and then because Bob Drake couldn't drive two cars at once, he chose to drive Joe Lubin's Mazda versus Frank's 4.9, and that was an opening. And they said, "Well, Dan, would you like to drive Frank's 4.9?" And of course, I said yes.
Boy,
And
Bob made the wrong move.
anyway, I mean, Bob was a darn good driver in those days, and but anyway, that was the key that unlocked the door to
Great.
getting somewhere. Yeah,
Yes, that 4.9 was a beautiful car.
it was a
The
great
Corvette
car.
was a big handful.
Well, the 4.9 was fast, but it was not a very user-friendly.
The biggest Mazda I ever drove was a 3-liter,
Yeah,
and it was really a nice car.
yeah. Well, Mazdas were good. Frank's car was a Ferrari, but that's
The 4.9 was a Ferrari.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a little over the top, probably.
Well, it was yeah.
Handful.
I mean, that's what you
Yeah,
probably if it hadn't been a little nasty, I wouldn't have had a chance to drive it. You know, so that was
yeah.
there
I
was
ran
some
up
good
against
stuff.
it
Yeah.
at Seattle with the HWM and Stove Bolt.
Yeah,
And Shelby was in a 4.9, and Phil was in a 3-liter Ferrari. And the Stove Bolt was great in a straight line, but that was it. It just refused to. No, I'm not going to turn right. Or
yeah.
yeah. Well, that's, so then what? Tell me what happened, then where did you go?
Well, the Ferrari farm system amounted to Enzo Ferrari and Luigi Chinetti, who was the U.S. importer for Ferrari, and so he would call and give Enzo the results of all the events on the previous weekend, and then because of that, and I ended up winning a race in Frank's car a couple of different places, Paramount Ranch and Palm Springs, and finished second at Riverside behind Kel. I got noticed, and Luigi invited me to go to the Le Mans 24-hour in 1958, and Bruce Kessler and I were the drivers for his car, and they told me I went as fast as Mike Hawthorne had gone in the same car the year before, so that was good, of course. And again, the key to getting somewhere. But in the meantime, I ended up, once that was done, and I also got a chance to meet Troy Ruttman, who was over there. Bernard Carrier, remember the...
Very well.
Yes, okay. Bernard made quite a few arrangements for Troy, and he also helped me with Guglielmo Day, the Scuderia Centro Sud in Italy. And I drove an Oscar at the Nürburgring in a race. Yeah,
That had to be a lot of fun.
Oh, it was. I mean, it was a challenge.
I
It was
bet.
really good.
I thought I saw some pictures of the Nürburgring.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I got to race there quite a bit later on, but in fact, held the lap record there on 2 different occasions.
Did you really?
Yeah. Formula 1 lap record. Well, the lap record. Yeah.
That's quite an accomplishment.
Well, yeah.
I would say.
That's why I mentioned it. It's something I'm very proud of.
You should be. But Fangio had it, or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fangio had it. Phil Hill had it. And then we changed to smaller, from 2.5 liters down to 1.5 liters. And I got it in 62 in a Porsche 8-cylinder air-cooled engine, and qualified on the pole there.
Yeah, that has to be the ultimate test.
In those days it was. I think they've ruined it now. They've turned it into kind of a freeway.
Really?
Yeah. But that's what they call progress. Yeah.
Oh. That's, so then this came about.
This All-American Racers, my company, and now the kids too, again, opportunity knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And what happened, Carol Shelby and Carol was very close with Goodyear.
Yeah.
And Goodyear and Firestone were big competitors at the Indy 500 and places like that. Firestone had been the dominant one. And on year probably 1964, could be 5, but I think it was 64, race day dawned, and all the cars that the day before were going to compete on Goodyear tires ended up on Firestones. And behind the scenes, the Firestone guy had paid people to drop Goodyear and put Firestones on, and what that did was like ticking off Mother Nature, because Goodyear was the biggest in the world at the time, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, and that became an opportunity. The head of Goodyear, what was his name? He was a former basketball player, big tall guy, and All-American. And that's where the name All-American Races came from.
Oh, all right.
And I'll think of it as Russ. Anyway, first name was Russ. They wanted to make sure, they went to Carol Shelby and said, can you build cars so we're absolutely certain they're going to be running on our tires for next year's race? And Carol said, look, I'm so up to here with all the things I'm doing, maybe Dan will do it for you. So they asked me, and I said to myself, I think I know all the key people that I need to know, and I said, yes, we can do it. And then I put one other condition on there, which was the rules for Indy racing and Formula One were so close to each other that you could build a Formula One car as an Indy car and vice versa with a few subtle changes. And so I asked them if I wanted to be able to get some money from them to do a Formula One car, and they went for it.
Oh, all right.
So that's how we got started. And we moved into this building and lived happily ever after. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great story. So I understand your son is now.
Justin is the CEO, and he's doing a fantastic job. I think he takes that for his mother.
So what? Do I know his mother?
Evie?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I met her. Well, I guess
Fairly
a long
recent.
time ago. Yeah. Very interesting lady.
Yes, she's terrific.
Fascinating. Then I saw her at Riverside when we did the autograph thing. What is this? What is All American Racers doing now? What do they?
That becomes a difficult thing to discuss openly.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to pry.
We're into essentially aviation business.
Oh, all right.
And that we're still doing prototypes. In fact, the most recent one that we did, you've heard of the Delta wing that they built that right here.
Oh, all right.
We built the Delta wing. And Justin arranged all the computers and everything upstairs for it, and Ben Bowlby and Simon and Zach and John Ward, all four of them designed it here, and we built it. And we've got some great photos of it when it was on its last day, headed for testing and finally the race at Le Mans. And just last week, they ran it at Road Atlanta in a 10-hour race, and it finished 5th. And
I saw that. I saw parts of that race. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it actually ran really well. It all they did was put gas in it and put on the tires, and for 10 hours. And actually, we lost about 3 laps because they kept putting us at the back of the pack because we were not part of the general. A lot of times in these races, when they finish getting everything sorted out, then they say they go forward because the yellow light mixed up where the various guys are, and they try to put it back in order. But in our case, we went to the back every time. So actually, the car was fast enough; it could have finished 3rd easily, and with a little help, might have been better than that. Anyway.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I'd say.
Well, I'm really thrilled that we had a chance to come down here, and I enjoyed seeing you again.
Well, I feel the same, Bill. And
had a lot of fun. Both of us. I've had a lot of fun. I know you.
Yes, I know it. And you were one of the pillars of race drivers in Southern California in those days, and I mean, it was serious stuff, and you did a great job. Yeah.
I was just at Monterey.
Yeah.
And they had a press conference, and I was introduced as the only living driver that won a race at Pebble Beach. I said, thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right, though.
Good Lord, yeah, because Shelby's gone, and
Phil's gone,
and there's nobody else that won a race there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I thought, gee, this was the lady who was the head of PR. I said, you could write something better than that. I know. Well, we appreciate coming down and taking up some of your time and visiting. So
Well, keep coming.
we'll do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. It's good to see
Thank you, Bill.
Dan.
Yep.
Give my
Good to see
regards
you.
to Evie when you see her.
I will. Yep.